On this week's Mailbag episode, the San Diego Padres get swept by the lowly Tampa Bay Rays. Talking about the Padres' horrible skid as of late, losing 8 of their last 11 games, especially with the offense and the offensive struggles that they're having with all the injuries. Talking a little bit about Dylan Cease, and of course, as always, answering some of your questions. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Monday, April 28th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Arraez. You can follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, Javiiipeno, where you can sometimes get your questions read for the mailbag. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So be sure to do that, as well as YouTube comments. I will be reading from there too. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Fire TV. Did you know that Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Folks, it's not going to be a happy episode, let me tell you. But it won't be a ranting episode. Because I think in a lot of ways, unlike, say, let's use recent history, let's use 2023 for the Padres, there's at least some mitigating circumstances. There are some other factors. There are some other reasons for why the Padres are not playing well that have nothing to do with, well, not playing well, that being injuries, right? So at least this time, we can explain it. But bottom line is this, as I said in the old cold open, the Padres have now lost 8 of their last 11 following a sweep to Tampa Bay of all teams. The offense is a desert. It has basically been, now don't get me wrong, one of these guys, Manny Machado, started off the season very hot. He's been good for the majority of it. He's just been bad over like the last 11 games or so. I just really, before we get into this, I think it is fair to say, look, it's been a really rough skid lately. But it's at least, we're going to start off positive and say it can be supported by some of the injuries the Padres have faced. And unlike, say, in the 2023 season, that was a more over the course of the entire season that we were seeing disappointments and offensive displays the way that we've been seeing them lately. And on top of that, by the way, they did not have the same level of pitching. Yes, we have some concerns. We're going to talk about Dylan Cease in another segment, but the starting pitching has been pretty okay. We've had some really okay starts. We've had the rise of Nick Pivetta, who looks like he's going to be an all-star at this point, as your boy predicted, and we have the best bullpen in baseball that has remained being good despite the fact that they're trying to hold one-run deficits or one-run leads half the time, if not more than half the time. That being said, folks, they've lost 8 of their last 11, and they just got swept by a Rays team that, yes, Shane Baz, really good pitcher, but Little, and these guys, right, and Pepio, these aren't the type of guys that should be stopping the Padres offense. It has basically been, with some exceptions, I just mentioned Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. versus the world. He showed up this weekend. Did he have a couple opportunities to drive in an RBI? Sure, but for the most part, he's ripping doubles, he's making home runs, and also made a really great defensive play in yesterday's game as well. My apologies for a sneeze breaking out in the middle of nowhere for those listening on audio and frankly video as well. My apologies. But as I was about to say before I almost died mid-recording, Fernando Tatis Jr. even made a really great defensive play. And we're going to talk about yesterday's game first and then work our way through the back rest of the series before getting into the bigger problems of the Padres, right? So yesterday the Padres lost to complete the sweep by a score of 4-2. The only real offensive hit that they had was Mr. Jose Iglesias driving in Xander Bogaerts in the bottom of the second inning. And it was a decently well hit single, and that was it, right? Then you had a Manny Machado sacrifice fly later on in the game to make it 4-2. Didn't matter. The Rays scored 4. Chandler Simpson being a menace, he scored in this game on a wild pitch, and he drove in a run as well. Apparently a guy who literally just came up to the majors is doing more than a lot of our highly paid superstars at this point, but I digress. Randy Vasquez in this game, by the way, not all that impressive. He goes 4 2/3, a little bit better than his last start, obviously. 4 2/3, gives up 3 earned runs on 5 hits, walks 2, strikes out 1. Again, I told you, Randy Vasquez, the ERA doesn't express it enough. I have some hope, right? Because I like that he has a little bit more pitch progression that we've seen. I think pitch progression, that's a weird phrase. Never used that one before. But overall, I must repeat, he has not had a single start this year where he's had more strikeouts than walks. This is bad. He has a super high whip, and he's going to have, unless something changes, unless something with velocity somehow change, which won't, unless he starts locating better, unless he figures out a real put-away pitch that he can go to when he has 2 strikes or something like that, or just when he needs a strike, frankly, he's going to have more games like the one against Detroit, right, where he only lasted 2 innings, he gave up 6 runs. He is producing some weak contact, but that doesn't matter if batters are like, it doesn't matter, all we need is like 1 or 2 hits, because you're walking 4 batters a game, right? So Randy Vasquez, not great. I have some optimism he can still grade out as a decent 5. But whoever said that, like, this guy could be a 3 just because his ERA was low early on, you don't know ball. I'm kidding. You just didn't realize. It's okay. I don't like attacking my listeners, except when they deserve it. But Randy Vasquez, not great in this game. It's okay. It was fine. Like, this is hardly the biggest concern with the Padres right now. But it's the offense, right? They did not show up in this game. Bullpen, yes, they gave up a run or 2, but overall, this has just been a offensive malaise for the Padres. And it's not like this Rays team is particularly great, right? Neither was necessarily the Tigers team. Although, they have a little bit more than, say, the Rockies, right? Who we beat up on earlier in the season. I get that. But overall, this is just, it's a bad stretch, guys. It's a really bad stretch. And now, officially, following this weekend series, the Padres are now 23rd in batting average with runners in scoring position. That trails teams like the Washington Nationals, the Los Angeles Angels, the Cleveland Guardians, right? That's pretty bad. The Pittsburgh Pirates are hitting better with runners in scoring position. That's where the Miami Marlins are hitting better. They're actually 7th in baseball, which is pretty wild. That should get a little bit worse for them. But you are seeing one of the dare I say, fears that I had heading into this year. One of the fears that I had headed into this year, it wasn't a giant fear just because you did keep a lot of the same pieces, but you lose Profar, you lose Higgy, you lose Solano. Yes, you keep Merrill. Yes, you have Jake Cronenworth, right? But, and yes, you have Luis Arraez, who actually, a case for the Padres this year was that Luis Arraez wasn't amazing last year, right? And he had the thumb injury, so he was going to probably get better this year. But one of my worries heading into the season was they were really great in the clutch last year, and in baseball that tends to not translate year to year. This isn't like the NBA where I can trust that Anthony Edwards is going to show up in big games or LeBron James is going to show up in big games. It's not like that, right? It's a much more different sport. That doesn't mean they won't show up with driving and runners because they have a good lineup, or at least they have a lot of stars in their lineup when they're healthy. But it does tell you got to be careful with assuming you're going to be able to replicate that same success with Jackson Merrill hitting 5 walk-off home runs last year, whatever the heck it was, and Profar being like the best high-leverage player in literally all of baseball. That is something that you need to incorporate into your projections. But even still, this has been a pathetic display of offense by the Padres. And don't get me wrong, they did get a little bit unlucky in this game against Zach Little, right? They did have a lot of high, hard hit stuff. So everybody's concerned about Manny Machado. He had the second hardest hit ball of the day, 107.2 miles per hour off the bat, expected batting average around 370. Not necessarily the best, but he's still hitting the ball hard, right? That's what I care about. He had a flyout that had an expected 450 batting average. It was out, right? You had a flyout by Oscar Gonzalez in this game. He hit the ball pretty decently well, and it was a 620 expected batting average, right? Jose Iglesias had a 560 expected batting average. That didn't go. Tatis had a flyout at 890 expected batting average in this one, right? And it was the third hardest hit ball of the day. So they have shown some of their guys are hitting, like at least showing some signs of being able to hit, right? I like a little bit of what I've seen from Tirso Ornelas every now and then. And I've liked every now and then something that I've seen from Oscar Gonzalez when he gets the bat on the ball. But overall, what you're seeing here is a team that you're just begging for a big play, and it feels like you only have 3 players in this lineup that could possibly slug, right? And that's Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and Gavin Sheets. Tatis, he has been doing that. He's been amazing. He's literally an MVP candidate. Machado, he's been on a bad stretch. And then you have Gavin Sheets, who, while I do like him, remember, I like him in a role. My thing is, I'm kind of sold on Gavin Sheets not having to play the outfield and being a decent bench sort of platoon bat that can hit against righties, and then the Padres need to find a better, batter against lefties. But it's also true that Gavin Sheets sells out for power. You literally see in his swing that he's always trying to carry the ball. And that's going to work. He got a single yesterday, right? Like, he's going to hit for some power. He's going to drive in some runs every now and then. But it also is true that it wouldn't surprise him if he goes on cold stretches and teams determine, oh, look, he's selling out for power. His whole thing is he's trying to carry the ball. So we know how to pitch to him in a certain way. So we shouldn't be counting on this guy to be last year's Donovan Solano or last year's Profar that we found another gem. I think we found a piece, not a gem. And there's a difference, a little bit lower class, right? So that's where I'm at with the Padres offense, and we're not done recapping the games, and we're definitely not into recapping your questions for the mailbag, folks. But first, just a word from one of our sponsors. And what is that sponsor, folks? It is the good, legendary people over at the Duel of Fates. Just kidding. The Duel of Fans. Shout out to my Star Wars fans that were seeing Revenge of the Sith this weekend. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. I mean, the NBA playoffs are here. I don't know why I read it that way. The NBA playoffs are here, folks. And here, let me tell you, right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how they make making bets so easy, where you're picking your favorite team or diving into player props from 3-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has all the ways to bet your favorite player props and games. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Go check it out. And just like that, folks, we are back here, thriving and most certainly vibing here on the Locked On Padres podcast. No, not vibing at all. Actually, I don't know why I said that. But remember, follow me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Let's continue with the recap. Saturday's game. We got to talk about Dylan Cease. Firstly, not the best start from him, although he did flash some moments. 4 1/3 innings in this one, 2 earned runs. He gave up 3, but only 2 were earned because of an error, and then 4 walks, which was a season high, and 6 strikeouts. He's sitting with a whip of 1.62 on the season, 5.76 ERA. Here's the thing. In kind of the more, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, he did generate swing and miss in this one. He had 10 whiffs on his slider, 7 on his 4-seam fastball, and he didn't really throw all that many knuckle curves. He threw a couple change-ups and a couple sinkers, and he actually got a whiff on both of those, right? Here's the thing. He's still generating swing and miss. He just keeps giving up a big hit or two, which is what you saw in this game, right? You had the Brandon Lau homer in the top of the 3rd inning, and then you had the Christopher Merrill double, and then you had a sacrifice fly, and that was kind of it, right? But overall, there was also a little bit of an error in this game. I think that what's happening with this Padres team, right? A fielding error by Xander Bogaerts. He lets a ball drop at one point. We had another error by Manny Machado as well. Happens. It's okay with Manny especially. But Bogaerts, yeah. I'm actually going to be writing for Just Baseball. It's about time that I brought back the pen out and going to be writing about Bogaerts a little bit and just where we are with him. But that error he made with Iglesias, running over to try and get the ball that was closer to Iglesias in the first place and reaching out his glove and then still not catching it. It's bad, folks. Like, it's bad. And we'll talk about him more in just a second, but let me just finish talking about Cease. I did a short last week where I was like, I'm not all that concerned about Dylan Cease. I am not raising the red flag, but we are at a point where I am raising some flags in the sense that it's not impossible for Dylan Cease to go out here and have a higher ERA this season. That's just what he is. He can be a high variance pitcher sometimes. And I'd be worried that he could have, let's say, the ERA that he had in, 2023, right? Or even 2021, a 3.91 or a 4.58, where the expected metrics are better and you could get more strikeouts. But this is just what happens with pitchers who give up a really high hard hit rate, and they aren't necessarily generating enough ground balls, right? Dylan Cease this year, though, overall, the swing and miss stuff is still there, right? He's just been giving up a lot more barrels than usual, and the ground ball rate is worse, right? And it's not like those things have ever been great, but they have been down, right? Like, that's one of the problems here. But for me, I'm looking at this and saying, the velocity is still mostly there, right? Like, the 4-seam fastball this year, in terms of velocity, has not been, slower. 96.6 miles per hour on average. Last year was 96.9. Like, we're not really losing too much in terms of velocity. In fact, his slider is actually going faster. 89 miles per hour compared to 87.7 last year. His expected ERA is at 3.78 compared to his ERA right now, 5.76. There are reasons to believe that Dylan Cease is just getting a bit unlucky and that teams are teeing off at the perfect time, right? That's totally possible. In fact, if you want to go by FIP, his FIP is 3.15. I'm still maintaining my belief that the ground ball rate will get to, let's say, a slightly below league average, right? Nothing great. This isn't Logan Webb, but it's going to get a little bit better. I think the strikeouts are going to maintain. I think he can, maybe one of the issues will be higher walk rate this year. You know what I mean? That is a total possible thing. He has an 8.8% walk rate that is a little bit higher than last year's of 8.5%. But overall, I think that can hold, right? And 26.5% strikeout rate, the numbers are still there. I think that he's just having a very weird start to the year. Or at least I hope, right? I don't know for sure, but I hope and think that he's just having a very weird start to the year. He's having a couple innings that are blowing him up, and he was trying new things with his delivery, right? He was trying a changeup. He was trying to use a little bit more of a sinker, add that third pitch because that's what killed him in the playoffs last year. But you've seen he's going back to knuckle curve, he's going four-seam fastball and slider, and he's still generating whiffs. Right? It's just a couple hits every now and then. So I know people are panicking about Dylan Cease, but even if you don't trust him and whatnot, one thing that I think we all agree on is you're not buying into him being a 5 ERA guy, right? So that is good news. That means that we're going to be due at some point for a slew of Dylan Cease starts that are going to be awesome, and we're going to forget, we're going to be okay. The question is if the rest of the team can fire on all cylinders, because if you remember in 2023, one of the problems with that team was right when the pitching was working, offense fell apart. Right when the offense was working, bullpen and starting pitching fell apart. Outside, Blake Snell and a couple other guys, right? That's my take, right? So I know that doesn't give people a lot of confidence, but I'm feeling okay about Dylan Cease. The metrics say he should get better at some point. What degree? Not necessarily Cy Young. If you played any FanDuel bets on Dylan Cease to win a Cy Young, which I would not have advised against, which I would have advised against heading into the year, I'd be worried about that. But overall, I still think he's going to be a lot better. I'm not buying what I'm seeing in terms of the exterior numbers, at least thus far. If he's bad again, if he gets lit up in his next start, then maybe we could talk, at least a little bit. I'm willing to listen to the idea that people are a little bit more concerned after the start against the Rays, but overall, I'm still feeling okay about him. But maybe that's just me. Continuing onwards, though, only RBI that the Padres get in this game is from who else but Fernando Tatis Jr. He rips a single in this one in the bottom of the 6th inning. Of course, no one else can step up. Tyler Wade actually has been really good over the last few games, which is hilarious. He went 2 for 2 in this one with a run score. He was the guy that stole. He drew a walk as well. He's actually been hitting okay. It's pretty funny. And I actually don't hate Tyler Wade as a bench guy, because to me, I like it when my bench guys at least have a tool that they're good at, whether it be Jason Hayward. Okay, you're a good defender. Brandon Lockridge, you've played well, at least in the minors in defense. Tyler Wade, you're really fast. That does come into play. I do like that we have a little bit of a spark plug guy off the bench. It's not going to continue this way. I do not think he's going to have an 808 OPS, right? It's going to fluctuate. He's going to be bad. But I appreciate that he's doing his best, I guess I could say, given that the rest of the offense and the higher paid guys that should be doing better have not been. And one of those is Xander Bogaerts. 0 for 4 in this game with a strikeout. Left 2 runners on base. He has been dreadful, especially over the last 11 games. He's batting 167 with 0 RBIs and 9 strikeouts in 40 plate appearances. Now, the strikeouts aren't freaking me out, right? That's not all that bad. If there's one thing about Bogaerts that's been good is that his eye at the plate has been okay. But to me, the eye at the plate is being... how do I put this? He is, just because he's walking, I don't always think that that's a good thing with him, because there are way too many pitches down the middle that I just see him watch, right? Pitches that he could pull a little bit more. And that's the biggest concern with Xander Bogaerts, is that he is not barreling the ball at all, folks. Yes, the hard hit rate has had some moments this year, but overall, and he's not chasing pitches, that's great. But for me, what I'm seeing is you're not chasing pitches, you're not whiffing on pitches, but you're still striking out a decent amount, right? You still have a 20.9% strikeout rate. That's not terrible, but it's not great, and it's higher than his career norms before. And you are in the 7th percentile of barrel rate. So yes, he walks a decent amount, but it's at the expense of potentially actually getting some good pitches to hit and drive in runs. There's been way too many times this year, man on second, well, he drew the walk. I mean, cool, it's better than nothing, but you're not advancing the runner. And that's what you were supposed to do when you're at the 3 or 4 spot and you're getting paid $27 million a year. And Xander Bogaerts is not doing that. He's hitting the ball on the ground. He's hitting it hard at times. The hard hit rate is bad right now, right? Only 37%. It's gone down. But my thing is he's not barreling the ball. He's not pulling it. Haven't you guys noticed that? His one hit in yesterday's game was, if not for a good defensive play, maybe it's a double, but it was a grounder down the left field line. I'm worried, folks. I'm worried. And then Manny Machado also not showing up in this game. He is, over these last 11 games, he is rocking a 62 WRC plus. He's hitting 200 with a 233 on base. He's been terrible, but again, at least with him, I have seen, as we showcased in yesterday's game, I have seen some hard hit balls. I do think it's going to get better with him. I just think he's in a bad slump. I really do. And it's worth mentioning, though, that because he chases a lot, which we saw in the year that he nearly won the MVP in 2022, that means that there might be a little bit more fluctuation. Not chase a lot like he's Arraez or he's a super undisciplined player, but there are going to be stretches where he's swinging out a lot of pitches outside the zone. He's so good that he's going to make pitchers pay, but just not great for him, right? So a really bad stretch for him. But I am confident he's going to be better. Last game, I don't even want to talk about it too much because we wasted a Michael King start. 5 innings for him, no earned runs, but 1 run because of a Xander Bogaerts fielding error. 9 strikeouts, 1 walk. Wasted a gem by Michael King. AJ Monahan, 2 strikeouts. Wandy Peralta, 2 strikeouts. Jeremiah Estrada, 2 strikeouts. Alec Jacob, 2 strikeouts. They still don't end up getting the win. Tatis set the table at the end of the game, but 2 strikeouts from Bogaerts and wasting Tatis going 2 for 4. He had a double in this one as well. 2 doubles, actually. He was trying his best. Nothing for Oscar. Nothing really for Manny Machado. It's rough out here, guys. It's rough. This offense is bad. And I think that it's not just over the last 11 games. I think Machado will get better, like I said. But Bogaerts is a huge problem. Huge. This was the fear heading into the season that he couldn't even be an average player. I was hoping, and my best case was heading into the season, it can't be this bad, right? He's still Xander Bogaerts. Well, folks, yes, it can, because he's not hitting the ball hard. He's just been a mess. He's been a mess, and I don't know if it's going to get any better. But that's enough for the sad stuff, guys. We're going to get, not totally enough with the sad stuff, guys, but we're going to take one more break before we get into the mailbag. So just stay right there on your seats. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Because that ad, folks, is a lovely one. And it's one that you're going to need when it comes to going to more Padres games. I saw them booing yesterday. Don't necessarily do that. I understand when you do it. I'm not a big fan of booing because it's mean. But let me tell you, when it comes to catching MLB games live, the crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of them Frankfurter hot dogs or whatever you're rocking, or maybe if in Petco, some nice Mexican food as well. If you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. It's the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the Padres are upcoming against the Giants, you can count on them to help grab tickets to that big division rival matchup. Spontaneous game nights. They've got all these different features that help filter out the fluff and highlight the best discounts in the entire stadium. You can view the seats before you buy, all sort of good stuff. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your first purchase. But remember, terms apply. And again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with our friends at Game Time. And just like that, we are back here, folks, thriving. And we're not thriving. We're not really vibing. We're vibing a tiny bit, right? Here on the Locked On Padres podcast. One more time, check me out at Javi on Twitter/X and Blue Sky to have a chance to have your questions answered the way that they will be now. Folks, let's not waste any more time because you guys sent in some pretty good ones this week, by the way. First one from Rama Murray on Blue Sky. He says, "Hi, Javier. Question for Monday's show. To what god do we need to offer a sacrifice to get our bats going? Are the struggles with runner in scoring position going to be a repeat of 2023 or just due to the injuries we've suffered? I think it is the latter, but would love to hear your thoughts. Once the injured players are back, how would you change the bench? I'm seeing a place for Tyler Wade now. Love your show and hoping for better times soon." Thank you as always, my man Rama. Let me tell you, so I as I discussed in the first segment, I do think that part of this is like, guys, they're having a regression to a hard regression from how good they were in the clutch last year, right? The same way they had a hard regression to the positive from the 2023 season where they just never hit with anybody on base. And then last year, they always hit with runners on base, right? So I think that a medium is to be expected because the lineup is there, right? Like there is a lot there. In this lineup, on top of the fact that the emergence of Jackson Merrill happened, the fact that you have Luis Arraez, the fact that Jake Cronenworth, I think, is going to be at least better than what we've seen, right? Like you can't tell me Jake Cronenworth, you're not. That's one thing, and it is actually my mom actually brought this up, and she texted me and she was like, so I feel like, does everybody have a greater appreciation for like Luis Arraez and Jake Cronenworth now? It's like, yeah, I bet you a lot of people are like, yeah, I miss those guys like crazy, because with Tirso, Oscar, Jason Hayward at times when he was playing, I know he's hurt right now, Tyler Wade to a certain extent, and especially Bogaerts, like all these guys, you really appreciate the guys who actually even just hit a little bit like average, major league hitters. And that's where we're at right now. I think that the good news, though, is that you can at least attribute a decent amount of this with, like, instead of Oscar, it's supposed to be, or instead of, let's say, Tyler Wade in certain stances, Jackson Merrill could be hitting 2-run home runs, right? Jake Cronenworth could be hitting for some home run power. And then Luis Arraez, instead of relying on Xander Bogaerts to drive in a run, at least Luis Arraez is always going to put the bat on the ball and somewhat get a single, or, just do something, it feels like. So I feel like we're appreciating those guys a lot more lately. And yes, I think that a little bit of it can be attributed there. But it is true that the bottom of the lineup needs to be addressed. I've talked about Yuli Gurriel ad nauseum. He's batting 111 on the season, and the couple hits he's had basically one good game. And they're always on the ground. It's just bad swing decisions, and he's been bad for 3 years, and he's 40. There's no upside there. So that's why I was a big fan of bringing in Eggy Rosario, who could at least be brought off the bench to hit lefties. Now, I will say Eggy Rosario not doing well in AAA right now, but again, this is what I hate about the Padres, is I just feel like they're always asking their young guys to be incredible immediately, and if they're not, they send them to the shadow realm, and we never hear from them for a while, right? Luis Campusano, at some point, his numbers in AAA, rocking a near 1,100 OPS. At some point, the team is going to be like, we cannot keep both Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz on this team in good faith, because yes, I understand that Campy has some issues with his offense, but hey, would he be good as a DH at this point? I would be all for it, right? Especially against lefties. Maybe that's what they need to do. And more importantly, it's not like Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz grade out exceptionally well defensively. This was my issue with Austin Nola as well a few years ago, where it's not like he graded out well defensively, at least when it comes to framing, at least when it comes to blocking balls getting behind the plate, all that sort of stuff. That's my issue there. I will say, though, catchers, and especially with the coaching staff, they know a little bit more. So maybe they really do know that Campy is a problem behind the plate. But all I'm saying is at some point they're going to have to bring up somebody. So we'll see. And Tirso, in fairness, it's been a little bit early with him. I think he should have been on the team to start, right? Like, I think he could have been a guy that made the team to start the season, but it's okay. We have to give him a little bit more time. But overall, man, this offense, geez Louise. But that was a little bit too much there, addressing that question. But at Phoenix Ash 927 says, comment for Monday's show, I miss our boys. Get healthy soon, Crone, Merrill, Arraez, and thank goodness for the huge start to the season. Yeah, a friend of mine and somebody who's been on the show before, Nick Lee, compared on Twitter, you can go find him. He compared this start for the Padres like someone who loses a lot of weight and then binge eats after it and then regains it all in like 2 weeks. That's what this Padres season has been like. And heading into this matchup against the Giants, I wish we could be excited to be like, let's take a commanding division lead, but they've been terrible. So hopefully the day off does them well. At Steven Krasner 5532, he's got a couple of comments actually. Your headline asks a question: if the Padres offense, this was on Friday, can get going against the Rays after being shut out 2 games in a row versus the Tigers and the Rays. The simple answer is no, not without the return of Merrill, Cronenworth, and Arraez. Until they return, the Padres offense will continue to struggle, putting up runs consistently. You were correct, my good man. I mean, think about it as well from this perspective over this losing streak. Like, if not for that Elias Diaz home run, which is a home run that we shouldn't expect and be happy, like, it's not like, Machado homered or Tatis, like, that's not expected. It's just kind of a fluky, like, that might be one of the only ones that you get this year from him. They would have another loss, right? Like, that's how bad this team has been. It's been absolutely dreadful. So you are right, good sir. And I believe you also left another comment. Let me see if I can find it. James Wood, CJ Abrams, and pitcher Mackenzie Gore are going to haunt the Padres for many, many years to come. I said this when they drafted them, knowing they could not sign Soto long term. My original feelings are proof that I have ESP. Then he says ... N, which really made me laugh. Thank you, Steven, for your ESPN ways. At the time, Steven, and this is going to sound like I'm gloating, I got a little bit of crap because my thing was when the Soto rumors were coming out, I was like, look, do I want it to happen? Sure. I think I said, I was like, I want it to happen, but I was really adamant that you didn't need to go about it this way. Because my thing is, you are committing to so much in the present. You are like, you need to build out at least a little bit of depth. I'm all for spending on the stars. But here's my thing. Do you want to spend on the stars when you already have some? You only need a few like super duper stars to be very good. Right? Look at Corey Seager and Marcus Semien with the Rangers, and then a bunch of really good players after that. And then on top of that, I think one of my issues is this is a team that like it just sometimes it doesn't feel like they plan long term. Why are you trading for Soto and then signing Xander Bogaerts long term? Or even better, if you knew you were going to splash that kind of money in free agency, why are you trading for Juan Soto? Just keep the depth and sign a free agent, whatever it is. Don't do both, because James Wood is a stud. CJ Abrams, not a superstar right now. Like, he's not exactly playing amazingly for the Washington Nationals, but he does have a lot of potential, and he's super, super young. Right, he's 0.3 wins above replacement. He at least has a 111 WRC plus. He is stealing bases. He's slugging a decent amount, right? He's hitting into some power. I would prefer that over Xander Bogaerts, right? Like, I'll take that. And then James Wood, he's got a 151 WRC plus. And Mackenzie Gore, while he's been basically a good lowercase g starter over the past few years, this looks like a little bit of a breakout season, right? He's killing it. 37.3% strikeout rate over 35 innings. He's got a 3.34 ERA, a 1.99 FIP. He's now developing into the ace number one pitching prospect that he was once projected as. And then not to mention they have Jarlin Susana, who's at least an interesting prospect in the tank as well. I agree with you, man, and this is why I don't want to say against. I can't lie and tell you that I would have been excited if they didn't trade for Soto and he went to the Dodgers or the Cardinals or whatever. But my other thing was, with the Bogaerts thing that I just mentioned, and the other thing was, I think that in fairness to them, they thought Tatis was going to be there too. So maybe they were like, let's go for it. Tatis, Manny, Soto, right? Like, I thought they were going to have that. And they thought that Tatis would be the version of he is right now, maybe. They thought they were going to get that in 2023. Instead, he was still struggling and coming back from some things. Maybe that's what they thought. So, again, they still got, like, a really Hall of Fame caliber player on their team. But, yeah, it's looking rough right now. But they did amend it with the trade to the Yankees because they got Michael King, they got Dylan Cease, they got Higashioka. If they can extend Michael King long-term, I think that they did a really good job salvaging that trade. But let's keep moving on. I'm taking too much time here. At Billy Watson, 5149 says, we should trade for Lars Nootbaar. I think he can plug in that hole in the outfield. I love Lars Nootbaar. This is the definition of just a solid player. He's kind of what I wish best case scenario Teoscar Ellis would be, but I'm sorry, I'm just not really seeing it, folks, because he's still got another 2 years under contract, and the Cardinals are a cheap team, and cheap teams love keeping decent players who are young under good contracts. He's already got one winner above replacement this year. He's rocking a 409 on base. He's always been a guy that's going to walk, career walk rate of 14%. He plays a decent outfield as well. It's just I don't know how you get a player like that. It would be awesome, right? I would love to get Lars Nootbaar on this team. And maybe he's not as valued, and the Cardinals are going to be dumb, and all we have to give up is Ryan Berger, no offense, and the 7th ranked prospect in the system right now, whatever it is. That's possible. But overall, I just don't think they're trading a guy with that much years of control. But I agree, he would be great. And those type of players you can find, but it's tough. It's tough when you're in the Padres position where they don't have a lot to deal with from their farm as of currently constructed. At Askervera, I believe is how you say it, 8613, we should pick up Tristan McKenzie, who was just DFA'd. Ruben would fix him. I have no doubt that Ruben Niebla could fix Tristan McKenzie, a pitcher who has been very, very good before. He got DFA'd by the Guardians, though. And here's the thing, the Guardians don't make mistakes. Not right now. The Cardinals now do, but not right now. This is a guy who has not had a FIP below 4.5 over the last 3 seasons. And more importantly, he's damaged. The arm. He needs to get Tommy John surgery. That is what's going on here. This is very similar to the issue that happened with Nelson Lamet. This is a similar situation with a lot of guys. With Garrett Cole, this thing that teams try to do, where they try to like help you get through the season and do this maintenance sort of thing, it doesn't work. You need the Tommy John surgery. Until he gets Tommy John surgery, I'm not seeing it. It stinks because he's young. His career's not over yet, but I think he needs to get Tommy John surgery. I think it's been very clear over the last 2 years that he is a mess, right? And he wasn't good also in 2023 with his, granted just 16 innings that he pitched. He's hurt. The arm's messed up. And unless he gets Tommy John surgery, I don't see any value there. It's bad, right? Like, and the Guardians aren't dumb, right? If this was the White Sox, I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe pick him up. Maybe he could do something, but I do not see anything. in this for the Padres, and he doesn't last long. He's not even an innings eater, so not doing it. Rooting for him though. I do think post injury, surgery, something like that, he could be better. At Theodore Hart 4558 says Buccos are not trading Andrew McCutchen. He requested no trading. It's not in the contract. That's funny, but he did say that he would not play anywhere else. That's totally fine. Maybe he changes his mind coming deadline, especially with how porous the Pittsburgh Pirates have been, right? Like, they've been awful. They've been a disgrace. They do not sign anybody. Nobody's going to games because of that. They're atrophying their fan base. I could still see him maybe saying, okay, fine, maybe I want to play for a contender, but I get your point. He's a Pirate. Like, that's why he wants to go back there, and I get that. Regarding Mr. Tony Sue, actually, wait, one more thing. Izzone100 says the struggles you guys had might have had something to do with the Tigers having top 5 starting pitching and bullpen. I am totally open to that possibility, my friend. With the Tigers picture, definitely no bias there. But clearly, as evidenced over the last 11 games, it is not just the Tigers. The Padres cannot hit, right? They just can't. And it's Tigers' great team. Good pitching at points. Flaherty's very good. Love Screwball. They have some potential for sure. But no, it's the Padres hitting. They've been quite bad for the last what feels like forever, eternity. But speaking of eternity, I got a long question from Mr. Tony Sue, as always, saying regarding the newcomers to the lineup, Sheets has slowed down from his torrid start. I worry about his long-term prospects, but he has earned time to prove he should stay. Iglesias has been impressive getting timely hits and playing the field well. Age is not a problem yet. Diaz has handled most of the catching, and although his offensive numbers have dipped a bit recently, is probably largely been responsible for a lot of the pitching success and even created some nice offensive moments. Okay, I mean, my thing is, like, I don't like praising the catchers all the time for the success of the pitchers, especially when the defensive metrics aren't there, right? Patrick Bailey of the Giants, when pitchers are doing well there, I can see it because we know his defensive metrics, his framing, his throwing out runners is exceptional. But when you only go by how they call games, we don't know if that's great. Now, he hasn't been terrible, right? He's thrown out a couple runners, that's good. But the framing, he's in the 12th percentile in that regard. Blocks above average, he's in the 42nd percentile. I think it's more that the pitching and Ruben Niebla have been very good. But, okay, it's fine. I hear you, Tony. I hear you. I'm hearing what you're saying. And then he says, Maldonado has been working hard in the field and pitchers seem to be responding, but needs to work on his bunting. I don't see anything that's obviously wrong technically, but 3 failed bunt attempts in a row needs attention. Yeah. And also bunting when, like, there was, what was that early game? Was it Astros? I forgot what game it was when Maldonado bunted for, like, no reason and it was terrible. I forgot what it was. If anybody remembers. I forgot. I totally forgot what it was. I think he bunted when there was one out already. So then there was no point if you hit a sac fly. I think that's what it was. But anyway, Oscar is off to a good start, but he just arrived. Wade keeps showing his versatility, heaviness, and value. Meanwhile, it looks like Preller is doing what he can to sign players to back up the backups. Hope everyone gets healthy and returns, but in the meantime, if pitching and defense holds up, then the team only needs to score a few runs to win each game during this tough stretch. I'm not as optimistic about the bottom lineup as you are, Tony, but I do take what you're saying, which is that some of these guys have shown some potential for the Padres. Like, it hasn't been awful. And in fairness, with guys like Tirso and Oscar, they are new. You know what I mean? Like, it is important to remember these are new players, and they're new young players, so they're going to struggle at times, right? Like, that's just kind of how it goes. But Oscar Gonzalez, 58 WRC plus. Xander Bogaerts, 90 WRC plus, right? Lockridge, 54. Maldonado, 44. Yuli Gurriel, 5, by the way, which is insane. Tirso Ornelas, negative 12. Like, these are bad numbers, even if they are young players. Except for Bogaerts, right? I don't know why I mentioned him. I just wanted to take a shot, I guess, one more time. Gavin Sheets, 112 WRC plus. I agree with what you said. He has been slowing down. I think pitchers might be finding out that he's selling out for power. An issue that I don't have, as long as the Padres aren't like, dear God, we hope that he's pro-far. It's not going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen again. So we'll see. I think it's been really frustrating watching this team all year. Not all year, over the last like week or so. And against the Giants, I'm not sure it's going to get all that much better because the Giants are good and the Giants have shown up in big ways and they have a top tier player of their own in Mr. Jung-Ho Lee. That dude is also an MVP type of candidate. They've got Logan Webb going tomorrow against Nick Pivetta. That's going to be a real pitcher's duel, and it's going to be tough. It's at Petco, but they really need to show up during this series. They do. But bottom line is that the Giants just have a much more alive lineup. They even won on a walk-off Little League home run the other day, right? They have Heliot Ramos. They just have some guys that are stepping up. Heliot Ramos, Wilmer Flores, Tyler Fitzgerald has been okay for them as well. He looks like he wasn't a total fluke last year. And then you've got Jung Ho Lee and Matt Chapman leading things off. It's a good team. It's a good team. So this is going to be a really big test, not just for Nick Pivetta, but the entire Padres team. They need to show up. But as we said one more time, it is fair to say, at least unlike 2023, there are injuries to explain why the offense hasn't been as good. But that being said, folks, that about does it for today's edition of Locked On Padres Podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow me one more time at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO on Twitter /X and Blue Sky. Feel free to reach out there for more questions, comments, and concerns. But folks, until that next Giants series, which we will be doing a crossover for, look forward to that tomorrow with Ben Caspick of Locked On Giants. Until that next time, stay safe and of course, stay faithful, my Friar Faithful homies. Take care.